Before we start, I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting will be filmed live or recorded and uploaded to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. Therefore, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings. If any public speakers on MS Teams do not wish to have their image captured, they should ensure their video setting throughout the meeting is turned off and set to audio only. And members and public speakers are reminded to turn on the microphones before speaking and turn them off when they're finished. Thank you. Right, my name's Councillor Stephen Heather. I'm the chairman for tonight's meeting. To my left is Nigel Richardson, who is the Planning Services Director. To my right is Vivian Messenger from Democratic Services, and to the far right is Natalie Cole, who's handling the internet and webcasting. I'm sure you're more than aware of public speaking, that you'll have 3 minutes. Yep. Thank you. Right, apologies for absence, please.
Chairman, I've received apologies from Councillors Bassett, Lucas, Stocker and Sharif.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I...
declarations of interest, members?
Can I give apologies for Shane
sorry.
Yerrell? Sorry, Shane Yerrell, apologies, please, for absence. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any declarations of interest? Thank you. Can I confirm that the minutes of the last meeting are as they should be?
Agreed.
Thank you. Is there any other business?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Markham, if you turn your microphone off, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I did remind you.
None, Chairman.
Thank you. Site visits. Both of these sites have been visited, as I'm aware. So the first item on the agenda then is agenda item 8, which is EPF/0498/24, and Suki will be taking us through this, I believe.
Sorry, thank you, Chairman. I just get my screen. This application relates to the demolition of the existing workshop and erection of 4 dwellings with associated access and parking at 196 Crooked Mile. Since this application was presented and then deferred from the last month's meeting for a site visit, which was then well attended by councillors, I will try and quickly run through the presentation, as I'm aware that most members are familiar with the application. The application is before you today because it was called in by Councillor Lee. No objections have been received. This slide shows the, just get my pointer. The site outlined in red is located on the eastern side of Crooked Mile and is in Greenbelt. This slide shows a Google aerial view of the site. You can see the rear boundary extends beyond the rear boundary of the existing line of residential development on this part of Crooked Mile. This slide shows the existing site plan. This is an image of the front of the site. This slide shows the ground floor layout of 2 of the 4 proposed dwellings. The other 2 houses have identical layouts. This slide shows the layout of the first floors and the roof plan. This slide is the elevations of the semi-detached houses and a photographic sample of the materials. This is the site plan. One access will serve all 4 units. Due to the lawful use of the site as a piggery and the extent of the development proposed, officers consider the proposal to be inappropriate development in the Greenbelt, which will spread urban sprawl north and eastwards, causing encroachment into the countryside. It therefore conflicts with the purposes of containing land within the Greenbelt. This slide shows the proposed sustainable urban drainage plan. The submitted information has been found to be inadequate by the flood risk engineer for the reasons outlined in page 14 of the agenda, and is therefore contrary to policy DM16 of the adopted local plan. Should members vote to overturn the officer recommendation, a completed Section 106 planning obligation to mitigate against the adverse impact of the proposal on the integrity of the Epping Forest Special Area of Conservation in terms of recreational pressure and air pollution will be required before the decision can be issued. Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I can't hear. There doesn't seem to be any sound.
That's because I pressed the button and it didn't come on. I do apologise.
That's all right.
Right, we have one public speaker, the applicant's agent. Dominic, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, members. Thank you for taking the time to visit the site and give us the opportunity to address the queries raised at the previous committee meeting. As you could see from the mass bulk and coverage of the structures and the extent of hard standing, the proposal which has been submitted is a very special circumstance in the Greenbelt. The reduction of over 50% footprint and 61% reduction of volume will increase the openness of the Greenbelt and create much needed family dwellings rather than old dilapidated eyesore. We want to clear up a few misunderstandings as follows. The height of the new dwellings are in fact 200 mil lower than the adjacent ridge height of the existing cottage, not 800 mil higher as previously stated. The removal of the large expanse of concrete hard standing will significantly improve the drainage on site. We welcome the relevant conditions which are needed to finalise the drainage calculations following the approval of the drainage strategy being accepted in principle. The significant additional costs of completing this design at this stage has put the applicant in a very difficult financial position, and if the application were to be approved, then the applicant will be given the funding to continue with the project to then discharge all the planning conditions which is necessary to take the project forward. We hope that the committee will overturn the recommendation and approve the application before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, as you called it in, you can have...
Thank you, yes. I used to live next door to this as a child for years. The whole area is an absolute mess. It's all concrete pigsties with corrugated iron roofing. I called it in originally to make sure that the ditches round the back were cleared out properly and that there was hedgerows or trees built, because since they removed all the ditches and the hedgerows from the fields behind it, the houses down the road were getting flooded. Now, they weren't getting flooded before they altered the fields, because we were never flooded when I lived there. And I really can't believe that we're saying that we can't build on it because it's the green belt. And to be honest, if it went to appeal, I think we'd be laughed at, because it is such an absolute mess. It's an eyesore. It's all concrete buildings. There is drainage. A corporal, back in the army days. When we looked round, we saw some of the great big drains that were there, because it never flooded as when I was a child, and Harry, the pig rig guy, used to swash it down every day, you know, with the hose pipes. So there obviously was drainage, and of course the semi-detached houses that are adjacent to it, they've got proper drainage, but I did bring it forward because I wanted to make sure that ditches and hedgerows were cleared out and done properly round the back so there was no flooding. So I cannot accept this being refused. Sorry. Thank you.
Are there any other members? Councillor Chris Whitworth.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. And no, unfortunately, I didn't make the site visit because at the time I was off with COVID, so I didn't get to the site visit. But I have driven past the site myself and aware of the site, and I have sympathy with Councillor Lee's position with regards to the site. I am also very mindful of the need to make sure that the drainage is correct, and if I was to support a recommendation for granting, I think I'd want to make sure that recommendation was as strong as possible, that condition was as strong as possible, to make sure that the drainage issues were addressed prior to prior to commencement of any work on the site. I think that's vital. I also am very mindful of the Crooked Mile and its issues from a highways perspective and road safety. And obviously this is introducing 4 new dwellings onto the Crooked Mile. Whilst this isn't the fastest part of the road, it is a busy part of the road. And I think perhaps we should have been asking for some consideration on the 106 towards the cost of some form of traffic calming or improvements to the access to the site. They are my initial thoughts, but obviously open to other members' suggestions.
Thank you. Yep.
Just about 50 yards from these houses, there's a 40-mile-an-hour sign. Also, the way that they're setting those 2 semi-detached a bit back, there's ample room going in and out for turning around and parking for at least 4 or 5 cars. So, and it's a straight bit of the road, and once all that debris and that's cleared, they'll have ample vision either way. And as far as I'm aware, Highways didn't have any objections. And yes, it is a fast road, but to be quite honest, it wouldn't make a lot of difference. There was nurseries there before that were busy with lorries going in and out on the other side of the road for years. So I just can't accept the refusal, sorry.
Councillor Pugsley.
Thanks. Yeah, I did go on the site visit, and I have to say I agree with Councillor Lee. There would have been cars, lorries, etc. when it was a business. It's not viable as a business anymore. I think the houses will massively improve the situation, the view. And yes, it is a fast road, but there are many houses along the length. I can't see why this should be refused. Thank you.
Councillor Morris.
Yeah, I did go on the site visit. Yeah, I can see it's classed as greenbelt, but it doesn't look like it. It looks more like an industrial site than a greenbelt. The concrete structures there are pretty old. Probably not that safe. People get in there. I had a lot of concerns about that site actually, and I felt that something needs to be done with it. I don't think it's a good idea to leave it the way it is. Yeah, I think there should be a condition in the planning approval on drainage. I think that's very important. But as far as I understand it, it's possible to meet the condition. So for me, I think it should go ahead.
Councillor Mark.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm in the same agreement of Councillor Lee, Morris and Pugsley that we've all been on site, and it's only going to be improvising on what is there at the moment. It's a mess. As long as everything is conforming with the conditions with regard to the drainage and the road situation, obviously with the highways, then I don't think this application should be refused. I will be supporting the application. Thank you.
I don't think it's actually going to detract from the openness of the green belt, removing that. Right, the officer's recommendation is to refuse planning permission. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation?
None, Chairman.
All those against?
Unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. Therefore, the officer's recommendation is declined. Can we have somebody propose a motion as to why we should grant planning permission, please?
Well, I propose that we grant it because it will be a massive improvement and it will get rid of so much concrete and the houses will be on a far smaller pitch. I don't know if that can be classed as a planning issue, but as far as it goes, it's such a mess. You can't leave it like it. That is the entrance to our beautiful historic Waltham Abbey. Nigel.
Hold on, make sure you can all see me. I mean, the main thing here is you've got to state very special circumstances why there isn't harm to the greenbelt, because in principle there is. Because it's, by definition, there is. Because it's in the greenbelt and this is inappropriate development. So you therefore have to come up with what's so special, and it's got to be very special to outweigh that in principle harm. So that's what you need to really concentrate on. I mean, I've heard you say removal of the concrete. So are you saying that the visual appearance of the site improves and therefore the visual impact of this part of the greenbelt improves as well as the openness? I mean, if that's what you consider the very special circumstances, then that's what it sounds like, and I'll put it perhaps into more planning terms.
So that's what you're
Yes,
proposing?
yes, I'm quite happy to propose that because they're going to put greenery around it and make sure the ditches are dug out and everything. Yes.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Yeah.
Councillor Whitman.
So what I was going to suggest is, Suki, have you got some conditions and legal agreement, terms of reference that would be required?
So the standard conditions, so that's 3-year time limit, plan number, a land contamination survey, flood risk assessment, drainage details, the standard soft landscaping, retention of trees, tree protection measures, laying out of the parking area and access and turning area, and in accordance with highways comments, no, only inward opening gates, sustainable travel pack to be given to each household, details of external materials, ecological enhancements for biodiversity, broadband, the provision of electrical charging points, control on sustainable water use, the PD rights of each dwelling being restricted, and then the construction hours being controlled, and a method statement to ensure that neighbouring properties don't get affected during the construction of it. And then for the section 106, it'll be 4 times the dwellings for air pollution, which is £335, and then £343 and 2 pence for the recreational pressure for each unit, because it's between 3 and 6.2 kilometres of the FSAC, and the monitoring fee to go with it, along with the cost of reviewing the unitary, the UU once it's been submitted.
Are we happy with those conditions? Okay. So the proposal then is to grant permission with the conditions and 106 agreement. All those in favour of?
Unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, am I correct in thinking that as this is contrary to policy, it would need to be referred to the EDMC?
I think the very fact you've come up with very special circumstances sounds to me that you can make the decision at this level and not refer it up to District Development Management Committee.
Excellent, thank you very much indeed. Therefore, that application has been granted with conditions. Thank you. Right, so moving on then, agenda item 9 is EPF stroke 0895 stroke 22 on pages 18 to 38, and Mohammed is going to take us through this, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. I am. So item 9 relates to the former Kingsmead School in Royston. This application was deferred from the last committee for a non-technical summary on the Affordable Housing Viability Report, which is appended to the report, and I'll also go through it in the slides shortly. Just as a reminder, the proposal is for the conversion of the former school into 10 flats and a further 16 dwellings spread out within the wider site. And again, this site is an allocated site within the adopted local plan for approximately 21 dwellings, and following the adoption, it has been taken out of the green belt. So here we have the location plan. This is the former school. We have the access here, which is shared with Kingsmead Lodge over here. So here's the proposed site plan. So the former school over here converted into 10 flats, and the remainder of the dwelling spread out throughout the site, with open space, landscaping and so forth. So here's the CGI, the former school and the dwellings around. Here are some of the elevations. So these are the new dwellings. This is the former school. Here's the access. And that's Kingsmead Lodge over here. So members may recall the proposed pedestrian highway improvements. So we have a footpath proposed over here. Another one proposed over here. And another one over here. Here's a closer view. And this shows the 5-meter width. And following the previous meeting, the applicants have carried out a vehicle tracking plan just to demonstrate 2 cars can go through the site without any conflict, as shown here. And there is a further lay-by over here, a passing point. So here's the proposed traffic calming measures. So this is the gateway feature proposed over here, further down the site, the road, sorry. And this is an image of the gateway feature. So turning to the non-technical summary, I hope members have had a chance to review fully. Just to summarize, this table on the left shows the contributions that from the viability assessment. So the first row shows what's currently proposed. It's equivalent to 1 unit, and in percentage is 4%. The second row shows the total surplus identified in the viability report, but excludes any Section 106 contributions, as shown on table, the second column. If we were to seek the total sum, it would amount to 3 units and 12%. And the third row, so this includes the proposed affordable housing of 180,000, in addition to redirecting the community 40 square meters of community facility floor space and the open space towards increasing affordable housing provision. So this option is open to members if considered necessary, and it would result in 2 units equivalent to 8% affordable housing. And just to summarize the case, so the full merits are set out within the report. And in terms of the proposal, whilst 26 units are proposed, 5 more above the approximate allocated figure of 21 units, however, the scheme before members is well designed. And if I just go back to and 26 units can be comfortably accommodated on the site without amounting to harmful overdevelopment of the site. This is largely due to the conversion of the existing school into 10 flats over here. The proposal satisfies the site-specific policy requirements as set out in detail in the agenda. It also safeguards the living conditions of neighbouring amenities, the protected trees, and would provide a good level of accommodation for future users. There would also be benefits from the construction and occupation of the homes, along with wider pedestrian highway improvements, as shown on the slides. There would also be further benefits to education and open space and community facilities. Overall, the proposal would deliver homes on an allocated site in line with the visions and objectives of the adopted local plan, which is one to provide a mix of new homes within the district to meet the needs of existing and future generations. For these reasons, officer recommendation is to grant planning permission subject to conditions and a completed Section 106 legal agreement. Thank you, Chair. That's the end.
Thank you. We have one public speaker on this application, and that's the applicant's agent, Laura Dudley-Smith, on Teams. Laura, again, you have 3 minutes, please, so up to you.
Good evening. My name is Laura Dudley-Smith, and I'm an associate partner at Cirrus Property. Cirrus Property are the planning agent acting on behalf of the applicant of this application, Propertier. You will recall that this application was deferred from the last meeting, subject to the production of a further non-technical summary by the Council's independent viability advisor. We note that this has now been provided. The viability of the scheme has been tested to ascertain the maximum amount of financial contributions that can be made before the scheme would become unviable and ultimately undeliverable. The report concludes that the surplus from the development is £599,356. As set out in the officer report, all of this surplus is proposed to go towards either Section 106 contributions for infrastructure or towards affordable housing. The scheme will therefore provide the maximum possible level of contribution that can viably be achieved. This approach has been reviewed and agreed with by the Council's own viability consultants. The process undertaken has ensured that any excess money available after all developer costs and Section 106 contributions dealt with can still be used to contribute to the provision of affordable housing in the district. Respectively, the proposals accord with national and local planning policy. In addition, further to comments at the last committee regarding the access, the applicant has also now provided a tracking diagram which demonstrates that 2 vehicles can safely pass to access and egress the site at any one time. The scheme is the result of a long process of working with officers and will bring forward housing on a previously developed site in a sustainable location and on land allocated in the local plan. We would request that the application is supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews, if your apologies for lateness are accepted, but can I remind you that you're not allowed to speak or to vote on this matter as you've come in?
That's fine.
All the way through.
And I've got no declaration of interest as well.
Thank you. Members, Councillor Chris Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the additional information that's been provided. It's been most helpful. And it was really good to be able to see a diagram view of how the access will work. And I think we have to accept this is a site within the local plan. And I accept what's said with regards to the 106 agreements and the affordable housing element to it. And of course, I recognise the community benefits as well. And of course, I believe that the enhancements to the highways will be most useful and that they are thought through. So I think they're all the positives for agreeing the application this evening. I do think the affordable housing element, in some cases, we're going to have to be keep a watchful eye on as things progress, because we are in a difficult part of the construction economy at the moment, and I think we have to recognise that. Times are not easy out there, and we do want to deliver homes, and that's what's really important. But I'm mindful on the affordable housing piece. I'm happy to accept this application this evening, but I just want to be, and I think it's worth members being very alert to the affordable housing element in the future, and just especially as the economy starts to change.
Yeah. Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, voice loud enough though. Thank you, Chairman. And just to repeat a couple of the points that Councillor Chris Whitbread made, I think the site itself is a good layout, the plans make sense, it's a good use of the space, and of course it's in the local plan. However, although I accept the viability study and the conversations that have been had with officers, it does sit uncomfortably with me for a site to be delivering zero affordable housing. And I think, we've got a strong position of 40% affordable housing in terms of our local plan. and to not deliver any. And while I can understand the reasons and I see the figures in front of me, does sit very uncomfortably with me and makes it difficult for me to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I agree that the affordability is an issue, but unfortunately the price of materials, the price of everything has gone through the roof, and unfortunately business runs on profit. Right, members, then, the officers, by all means.
Sorry, yeah, it sits uncomfortably with us as well, affordable housing. There is an option there in the appendix whether you feel that the contributions have been put forward could be moved more towards the affordable housing contribution, which means you would lose the open space contribution. That's, yeah, so in that, on the screen now, that's, at the moment it's the first one unit, 4%, but there is an option of the last one where you could get more money for affordable housing, which will be 8%, but by doing so it means the open space contribution, the community contribution would instead be the affordable housing contribution. So there is an option there, members, if you wish to see that change from the 4% affordable housing to the 8% affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Councillor Chris Whitbread.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr Richardson, for that reminding us of that point. And it's always difficult for members to make that decision this evening. Having read the report, it's a real fine line. I haven't had the opportunity to speak with the Parish Council because there is an element of community here as well. And the Parish Council has, in fact, we was enjoying the Roydon playing field on Saturday, but they need investment as well within the community. So it is a very careful balance. If we agree the application this evening, is that something that officers can have a further conversation and then report back to the Chairman just to confirm that final piece?
Yeah, it's a bit it is unusual. I mean, what I would say is the community contribution. So this has come out of the infrastructure delivery plan. There isn't actually defined community contribution. What community that will go to is what we identified generally for the contribution. I suppose we could do it. Yes, we could do it, but we'd have to go. Like I say, we do it through the chairman. Sorry, I'm fumbling around a little bit here. I wish I'd even suggested it now. All I would say is there isn't a defined community contribution or the open space one. So flexible on that, to be honest.
Can I clarify then? Are we approving this or refusing it with condition 1?
Yes.
That's it. So, right. So the other two options we either have to decide on now.
I think so. Thinking about it, it's definitely been put forward as option or as the equivalent of one affordable housing unit. I'd rule out option 2 because that includes the air quality stuff, and you haven't. That's not really an option, if I'm being honest.
Councillor Chris Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. And again, we're always learning about the local plan, aren't we? And however much we went through it for 12 years, piece by piece, there's always something that throws up. And of course, here we're talking about a community contribution and a sustainable development. What would make the development more sustainable would be investment in Roydon, because it is a small village with very little in the way of amenity. Although, as I say, it has got beautiful playing fields that needs investment in. Therefore, actually, the additional affordable housing, if we can't guarantee that the community money is going to Roydon, where the properties are, then you're better to go for the additional affordable unit. But I think there's something we need to discuss for the future.
Perhaps let the case officer come in.
Yeah, so in a previous case for East, members did delegate the heads of terms, so where we explored an alternative request. If it was feasible, we'd proceed with it. If not, we would revert back to the original heads of terms as before, members. So we can explore whether there's scope to use the community facility funds. If not, we can redirect that funds towards increasing the affordable housing provision by, in this instance, it will be by an additional £15,000. And in terms of the open space, that would be used towards the Roydon playing fields and the nearby green spaces. It will be specific to Roydon.
Sorry, I do apologise. So are we saying that we can approve this or refuse this now and they can negotiate?
And then obviously, the only thing the case officer did point out that the open space would certainly be provided locally. It would go towards that locally.
So if members approve with conditions subject to section 106, and if they delegate the heads of terms to officers, we can confirm with the chair at a later date if the community facility element is feasible. If not, it will be directed towards increasing affordable housing.
Okay.
Hope that's clear.
Right, thank you. Councillor Lee?
Yeah, no, I was only going to say I prefer that it went to the affordable housing because improvements to the open spaces can be done after people have got some homes to live in.
Councillor Holly-Whitred.
Thank you, Chairman. And I would say they've got beautiful open spaces in Roydon, but I would be quite keen to understand the views of the community via the parish council. Just to bring up another point from that slide on the screen there, it says that £2,000 is going to Harlow Library. Is that default because of the location? Because I'm just wondering whether, and the ward council might be able to correct me, but whether Harlow Library would be kind of the main facility that people in Roydon use firstly, but also it's just had a huge upgrade, so I don't think Harlow Library probably needs that money, and it might be better spent in Roydon itself.
So the education and the Harlow Library has been requested by Essex County Council, hence why we haven't proposed to redirect them. So they have come specifically from Essex County Council.
Councillor
Chairman, as the ward member for Roydon and the county councillor for Roydon, the money would be better directed to the primary school in the village that's got parking issues and actually could really do with that extra £2,000 for facilities within the school. I'm happy to take it up with the Cabinet Member for Education if necessary, but certainly that's what I would ask for that to be worded. It starts to make more sense that way. At the end of the day, when the local plan, where it's impacting on a community, should benefit a community as well, the existing community. And I think that will help to actually, and I heard this again yesterday when I attended a master plan presentation in Nazing. You know, we've got to be able to show the community that they benefit as well. You know, it shouldn't all just be one way. So I think we've got a way forward this evening. I think if officers can go away and negotiate that 106 agreement to make sure we get the best package. But at the end of the day, if we're setting money aside for a community, it should go to a community. That's just my view on it. Not everyone will share that. But we have a duty to the existing communities to make sure they get what's needed as well. And we often hear, don't we, that argument around infrastructure and such. So if we could have a look at that library contribution and make sure it actually goes to the school and to the benefit of local people, I think that would be a good thing.
Just to clarify, Councillor Whitred, so the Harlow Library fund, so officers are to explore that if it can be used towards improving parking spaces at the nearby school. Is that correct?
There is an LHP scheme at the moment which is in the phase of funding that would really benefit local school children, making the school more accessible and safer for children. That I would rather see that £2,000 go towards than I would seeing it go to Harlow Library at this stage. It's just been refurbished. Yeah, which has just been fully refurbished and is a wonderful library to go and visit.
Thank you. We can explore this if members delegate this to officers.
Right then, members, the officer's recommendation is to approve this with conditions, subject to the Section 106 agreement and subject, obviously, to them sorting out this or that. So, all those in favour of approval?
Unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you. That application is therefore approved, subject to the 1001 various conditions. No. Right, agenda item 10 is not for this committee. It's actually Plans East, so that's been transferred, so we won't be dealing with that. Is there any need to exclude the public and press?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. I therefore close this meeting at 19:40. Thank you for your attention.